Hello, I'm Dr. Andrea Goeglein, and this is Serving Your Success. I want to introduce you to everyone except my normal host, Kate Kellogg, who is off doing what every millennial should be doing, and that's getting interviewed for graduate school today. And we are all psychically wishing her very well in what she's doing. So let me tell you what we are going to be doing today. I have the pleasure of having gatherings at my home about once a month, where, with the help of Michael mostly, I've collected a group of really incredible young thinkers. And for me, I know the millennials to be the generation that will show me how I'm going to live the next 30 years of my life. So they hold for me very important information. And as you've seen in the conversations with Kate and I, we want to talk about what is it that moves the generations forward, and where is there a crossover? And before we started today, I had started the conversation about the fact that the term millennial is somewhat held in quite malignment with those of my generation, which is not millennial, as you well know. And we want to talk about the things that matter and what's informing who they are and what they're creating in the world. So I am actually going to let each one of them introduce themselves, and then we'll start our little conversation. So Andrew, why don't you start for us?
Thank you so much for having me. So Andrew Matthews, thank you once again.
Yes.
I am a storyteller per se.
Okay.
I like telling stories via video, but in the last few years I've been doing digital marketing, so I kind of fell in love with that space. And in that space, if you're not telling a good story, you are not relevant, right? So I've been focusing my last few years just on grabbing people's attention through video.
Okay.
Yeah, so moving forward, I plan to do the same in the virtual reality space.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the future of what I'm doing in video.
Okay.
But for now, I guess I'm really busy with YouTube and Facebook and that type of stuff.
Super. We'll get to talk a little bit. And do you have your own channel yet?
I do not have my own channel yet. I have a YouTube channel, Andrew Matthews. You can find me there. There's 2 videos there, but I want to curate it in the best organic way possible. But yeah, just go Andrew Matthews on YouTube and you'll find me there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Eden, please.
Hi, yes. Eden Bernstein. I am currently doing digital marketing consulting work as well.
Awesome.
And loving it. I just recently graduated from UNLV, and I'm deciding on where I'm going to law school in the fall. I have a couple of full ride offers and some acceptances, so just making that decision right now. And I've also recently started doing these events called Disconnect, and that's where I met Michael. They are aimed at getting the interfaith community and also the young Jewish community together to do something that I call a Shabbat-like experience, which is how a millennial would like to do Shabbat.
Beautiful.
And I mean millennial
Okay.
in a very great way. And I'm
Yes.
also a writer and a blogger, asyouareme.com.
Perfect. Thank you. Michael.
My name is Michael Grema, and I appreciate you hosting us. I'm really grateful for this opportunity, so thank you for that. I do business consulting in town. I work with business professionals. I graduated from UNLV with a finance and management degree. I also work on several community projects, one of them being TEDx Las Vegas, and to really putting together a little bit more of the intellectual community and helping shape the next wave of the generation of what
And
the
that's how
education
Michael and I
will be.
actually became acquainted, because he not only introduced the community to TEDx at a very different level through the university. What he did was devote his senior project to creating what was, if I do say so myself, a really beautiful inaugural event for the university. I mean, it was really top shelf. And there are a number of people from that day that have gone on to broaden their work because of that, which is always, that's why you do the stuff you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there are community initiatives that can thrive here in Las Vegas.
Right. I mean, what it adds to the educational community in particular, I think that part of where you're working, getting younger people into that conversation at TEDx, is so darn important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Bryan.
Hello everyone. Yes, my name is Bryan Johnson. I am definitely happy to be here with you all. My background is basically media. I run a media studio which consists of film and music production, and I do a little bit of work at UNLV filming, different professors, and just catching lectures here and there. But my future would be consisting of going to accelerated program for like learning code and
Okay.
developing websites.
So technology will still
yes.
be technology into production of video would still be
Correct.
the genre.
Yes, just trying to figure out how to infuse it all together.
Okay. And just to be fair, I'm going to ask a series of questions just so people that are watching this get a feel. Do any of you associate with a religious organization?
I used
Do you
to.
identify? Used to.
Not anymore, not so frequently. I grew up as a Christian, although I feel Christian, but I do not. I'm a secular Christian, if you will.
Okay. So there's no place you go on Sunday for an hour or so.
No.
Or
I would
Wednesday.
go to an entrepreneurial church, if you will.
Okay. All right. And for you?
Conservative Jew.
Conservative Jew.
Yes.
I would say Christian.
Christian?
Christian.
Okay.
But lately I've been really digging into just spirituality.
More new thought
Yes.
oriented. And do any of you go on a weekly basis anywhere? So you do go to synagogue?
Yes.
Okay. Every Friday for Shabbat? Is that where you're holding your meetings?
Mine are actually at the Gramercy, and I
Oh.
try to do those. The goal is once a quarter.
Okay.
But normally I go to synagogue, Temple Beth Shalom on Fridays.
Oh, I've been there many times. Okay. Any Sunday service?
I do Sunday service,
You do?
but I don't go as often as I should. I'm just.
Who made that rule? Let me know who's got that rule.
Well, I was an altar boy.
Oh,
growing
okay.
up, so I do have a lot of experience going every single Sunday, but ever since starting school and university and like really studying for different exams, I had my hands full with a lot of different things. So I try to broaden my.
Yeah, that's the excuse we all used at one point. It's part of being in your 20s. There is that excuse as to why you don't attend. Political party. Do you associate with a political party?
I do not.
You do not.
I do not. I'm
Okay,
just
so
very
you're
neutral.
up for you can be bought.
I'd rather
Is
connect with a human at a human level, and then the rest is the rest. But yeah,
that- Do you vote?
I do not vote.
You do not
No.
vote. Do you have the right to vote in the United
Yeah,
States?
I
You
do.
Okay.
Yeah, registered voter.
Okay. I'll talk to you about that later. Go ahead. So
I'm
you
a Democrat.
You are a Democrat.
Yes.
So I grew up with a lot of conservative principles, but I've leaned more to an independent side.
Okay.
Partially because I've tried to look more in depth on the different candidates.
Okay, and I will tell you, I learned something in the last month. Someone said that they actually, because I am a registered independent also, and they said, independent is actually a party with a philosophy, and you have to actually. What is true for me is that I am nonpartisan. So I have to go back in and get mine changed again. And I would suggest you look at that for yourself.
I am a nonpartisan
Yeah.
independent because there is a different classification in the political system which identifies independence for a specific group. But I try to look at the candidates, and I was in this past election, I was nonpartisan.
Right. Gosh knows. That was a good place to hide. In this last election. Hide in that nonpartisan group. Bryan.
Well, I definitely have been a Democrat over the years, but
Okay.
I'm kind of swaying in the middle now. I'm
Okay.
becoming more independent. It's just a lot going on, and I can't really. It's hard for me to choose either or right now.
One of the reasons why I asked those two questions is because I think it's important for us as a nation to understand, those of us who are involved in business, there is a different tone coming in. There is not that same cookie cutter way. You grow up a certain way. You're probably closer to that, having both a religious affiliation and a party affiliation, but to see that the majority of you are not doing that on a regular basis, or as I jokingly can say, be bought. That is an important characteristic. There is, what that represents to me is a more ability to hear different perspectives, that you're not being confined by any one particular way of thinking. I have one more general question before we delve into what I really want to talk about. What are you afraid of? And I'm going to start with you.
What that? Oh, Well, you
Or
know,
are you afraid? You know, there is this conversation going on in our country right now, and a lot of people are quote unquote afraid. So, do you feel afraid?
I would say that I'm concerned.
You're
I
concerned.
I am a young father. You know, I have kids and married, 9 years, 3 kids, and I am definitely concerned with the direction of where the country is heading and the type of people we choose
Sure.
to lead. Um, is just really cloudy to me right now. So.
And obviously, you're an African American male in the United States. Do you
Mhm.
have heightened concerns around your safety?
Um, yes, there's definitely concerns there.
There are.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, there's
I mean, that's what we hear about a lot. And you know, what is it like to live that? Is it true? Are they telling us the truth? Whoever they are. And there's a lot of people telling us lots of things recently. So, you know, is that a concern?
yes, it's definitely a concern. I guess racial profiling is pretty big, and you know, you just have to be careful of places you go and you know people you hang around and things you come across. You know, so that's
So a heightened awareness at a minimum.
yes,
Okay.
yes, especially with
Okay.
all the stuff happening in the media the past few years.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's real.
Mhm,
No, I mean the
definitely real.
pictures are real. That's for, that we know.
Uh-huh.
Michael.
I mean, there are certain fears in relation to climate change, in relation to the environment that I have, but I try to take my approach in being more optimistic,
Okay.
in seeing what I can positively do for the community, and focus my energy not on necessarily dwelling on things that are too big of a problem that I can't handle myself as an individual, but
Okay.
in trying to do the things that I can in an optimistic approach for
Okay.
the community.
All right.
So I fear misinformation. Being in digital marketing, you see a lot of that.
Okay.
And he was talking about like how the media shows things. So we have the traditional channels showing a specific thing, and then you have social media channels showing something else, and there's this huge gap, right? And so I fear that people are misinformed,
Okay.
and they carry that out as truth, and
Okay.
it becomes their reality, if you will.
Right.
So I wish that the world was more informed in what's actually going on.
And Kate and I have actually done a number of shows on, you know, like what can be done as to try and clean it up, because, and I will say that I think it was your generation who started this, you know, the proliferation of putting out things that were kind of fun, but that others were picking up as actual information.
Right.
And the better you were producing a piece, the more likely the next viewer was to believe it in fact was a correct way of thinking, or something to be afraid of, or something to believe. And how do we police that has been, you know, definitely a part of that conversation.
That's very difficult to tackle, right? I think people need better discernment on the source that they're getting the information
Yeah,
from.
sourcing is becoming.
And so if the source, you have to verify if the source is true, and so get to know that source. Don't
Right.
just click on it through your newsfeed on Facebook and then assume it's real because it's on your newsfeed. So look into that. I would say that would be a good step into understanding if it's a valid source of information.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I totally agree. For a long time, I thought Trader Joe's was closing because of an article I saw, and I think I passed that on to 10 other people. My dad almost had a heart attack. I'm like, oh no, don't worry, your dried apricots aren't going anywhere. But definitely,
This is such an American problem when our greatest concern is that Trader Joe's and our dried apricots. But we have to acknowledge that,
right.
you know, collectively. We do, and I have said this many times with Kate, you know, I joke whenever I ask Kate a question that she's carrying the burden of 77 million people on her back when she tries to answer. But the reality is, collectively, if you've come into my realm, you have an education, you have had levels of privilege already that put you so superior to the other 7 billion people in the world that it's your point about something that we all use. Almost everyone in this community goes to Trader Joe's. And so passing that along would have been really natural.
Yeah. So, but here in general, fear is an extremely powerful emotion.
Yep.
And we all naturally fear what we don't know. We fear the unknown. So taking what Andrew said over here and making it show up in the real world, it's like so much uncertainty because of that. And I guess I fear anarchy, and I fear the political climate and what happens next. And you think, you grow up in school, and for our generation, we've had the privilege of not really having any great not political shifts, but great shifts in the foundation of what America is.
Correct.
And when you see an election cycle like the last one and how much technology and media and new mediums influenced it, you wonder, does the Constitution really stand in 2017? And how do we know? And so that's what I fear the most. And also as a Jewish woman, I have those parts of me too, and more swastikas all over UNLV
Correct.
lately, more and more bomb threats and everything. And I recently very religious, and that fear that we all experience is so powerful. I feel like I've finally been able to direct it. And that's what it's about. It's channeling that fear and directing it somewhere.
Perfect. And that is when fear is at its best. Because fear is a motivator. What we know in psychology, though, does not sustain. Because what generally happens, the way the brain works, if you have become too fear-oriented, you've closed down your frontal lobe and you have stopped thinking. Your ability to discern what is truth and what is not truth. Is this real? And I had an occasion on Sunday. I was picking up a Hertz car at a hotel, and a man in his early 80s sat down next to me and started telling me how awful the world was and how afraid he is that everything is, he went through a litany of things, and then he also named some terrorism attacks that occurred outside the United States recently and why he was so afraid. And I was very towards him because his fear was very real. And I also paused long enough to say, I want you to know that I don't view where I live here in that same way. I'm fully versed in the various things that are happening, but I work hard at not allowing things that I cannot become actively involved in, and that's what you brought up. No matter how terrible something is, when you stay down-toned and you allow your thinking mind, discerning mind, to come into play, what you're doing is thinking the next thing is, what action can I take? So you saw something in your community and you've created a gathering around it.
Yes.
The millennial gatherings at our home really started in September because I was personally frustrated. I honestly didn't know what the issues of the election were. And I'm a big girl. But I was so sick of trying to figure out from all sorts of news sources what are the actual things, because what was being presented on all sides had nothing to do with things I was concerned about. Like, I wanted to know where jobs were going to come from. I wanted to know what interest rates were going to do and what our monetary policy was going to be. I wanted to know what is the real level of safety. And I was not getting any of that information. So that's what really started those gatherings. But I think our ability to take some action is what takes back the power of whenever fear sets in. So now I'll shift it and this was actually part of the conversation that took place. Now, Eden wasn't with us when we had this conversation last week, but it was, how does your spirituality and or religion or both inform what you are attempting to create economically? Because I will ask one question before I go there. Do any of you earn a living wage at the work you're doing right now? You can pay all your own bills.
Yes.
Good?
Majority.
Good?
Majority too.
Good?
Yes.
Okay. And that's a lot of criticism about that they're the ones moving home, they're the ones who can't pay their bills, things of that nature. So I think it's always important when we're talking about what it is we do, is it allowing us to live within the society as it's evolving. So now, what you're creating, how do you inform it? Like, would you take a contract from someone, and please, I'm so sorry, I have a mental block about this particular website on purpose. I refuse to learn its correct name. There's an alt-right website, Bright something or other, Bright Art.
Breitbart. The one in Milo and that whole.
There you go. Okay. They have the right to exist. I have the right to ignore them. So, would you take a project from them?
It depends. I would have to learn about the project. And if they don't match my view or my vision, then no, I would not take it.
Okay. I want to hold you more accountable than that. I'm not going to let you off that. So, I like that you said that if it did not match your view or your values, that you would not take. Milo, yes, I've read enough about him, unfortunately. He came to you and he wanted to do a video on the beauty of the swastika and its history.
I would deny that. I would say no, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even though within the Hindi tradition, that symbol is actually quite a beautiful symbol.
Yeah, but I know his purpose. I know his end game. Yeah, it's
Okay,
different.
so the end game matters.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Purpose
right.
is everything for me. Like, yeah,
Okay.
it needs to match. Otherwise, my project with him would be horrible.
Right.
There'd be no flow, right? So
Okay.
it'd be hard to work for him. With
And
him.
Andrew brings out the point that I bring up so often when, regardless of generation, what we know in the science of thriving is that when you align your personal values with how you create a living, how you create community, you will be the most aligned and you will be the happiest and have the highest levels of well-being. So what I have noticed over the conversations in the last few years is that it appears to me that your generation is more willing to start there, whereas my generation had periods of evolution. You know, when I started out, there was this magical thing about the number 30 and the magical number about 40, and those were major life transitions. Now that's really, gosh, they've moved dramatically for my generation as to what those are, but I noticed that things that were taking place at 40 as ways of awareness really are starting in your 20s, saying you're coming into the system saying, I'm really not willing to sacrifice this part of who I am. Is that a fair statement?
Certainly, I think there's a whole new level of emphasis in our education about happiness and this culture of happiness. And it's the very thing that warrants all of the criticism about millennials, is the thing that makes us special. People are so upset that we're on this quest for happiness and we're not willing to work hard. But it's not that we're not willing to work hard, it's that we're unwilling to work hard in a job that we know we're being taken advantage of, or it's not what we want to do for the rest of our lives. We don't agree with the where it's going. And I think that we also see these pockets of whatever it is in any field that what used to be one field is now 100. Like
Correct.
you can go to Meetup and find all these groups, and it's very specific. And in religion now you have something that's as a Jew, I can go drink on Fridays, or I can go to a late night Shabbat, or I can go to an early Shabbat, or I can go to a religious one, or this or that, whatever. A million pockets. And so that gives us the ability to know our identity a little bit more, because we've been making those decisions for much longer.
And I agree, because there's a lot of factors socially nowadays that are affecting our information and our view of what we want to do in the workforce, because we want to be part of an organization that is also socially minded in what good or benefit they're doing for the economy, for the community, for the environment. Those are things that we really evaluate, and we really want to align ourselves into doing something that is positive.
Right. And I want to back up a second, because Eden, you did the exact thing that has happened. Being centered in the science of positive psychology, it did come out initially with the moniker that it was the science of happiness. The true thing that it is the science of is well-being. And that's what the science supports. We know that if you do these components to enhance your well-being, you will be a happier, more productive person. So unfortunately, like all things, it's gotten marked. What I feel your generation is doing is saying, I'm not going to work for a company where I am not aligned. There is more than just the paycheck that matters.
But I don't think it's just generational, because I think that there are even kind of tribal communities out there that are made up of different generations that are also becoming more self-conscious of different corporations, and even companies like Monsanto or our food supply. Those are things that we're just being more mindful of because we've had
Correct.
the ability to get a little bit more exposure through different mediums.
Right.
I mean, we've grown up with social media and instant information for different realms of information, and that's really something that isn't just affecting our generation, but is also affecting different generations, because we grew up with iPhones, and
Correct.
that was something that was introduced to be able to have instant smartphones and data information to
A computer
gather
in your
information.
hand, I believe, is the
Exactly. Like those are things that aren't just affecting our generation; they're affecting all the generations.
But I think you're holding fast in a different way than the generations before would not have. But I think that also has to do with the amount of information. We are far more aware, and things like being in alignment, consumerism, which is what drives our economy, is definitely being shaped by social media. Is definitely, within a short period of time, the ability to implant in me a degree of guilt if I use a certain company, because I now know where they're putting their money. I mean, it happened this week with Fox getting pulled. Last week, I know that I was involved with something on Amazon because they were placing ads with that same website that I can't remember the darn name of. Right. I refuse to accept their name in my brain. I just don't want to accept them. But I do understand that. I do understand that there is this instant way, and it works on the flip side. I mean, there are many things that if it is viewed as, I think Hollywood is feeling that at this moment, they are viewed collectively as a very liberal society. And so their products, you would expect that actors and actresses will begin to have things they're associated with judged by the other side. I mean, there's a full 40% that believe very strongly on the other side. I don't think it's 50-50, but I do believe that there's a strong 40% that has that impact. So how does your, especially because you're in you know that your thinking around religion and spirituality is evolving and is continue to be informed, how is it impacting your work?
Well, it's definitely given me just more of a open view, and just more morally collective. I'm just more receptive to different religions and different views from people. I mean, beforehand I would just I was just used to being in a box of the way I always thought over the years, and things has opened up a lot for me spiritually, and in the workplace as well. I'm just open to, not just seeing people for, whatever their practices are.
Great. So you feel that your spirituality, as it's begun to broaden, it has broadened other aspects of how you engage and what you do economically.
Definitely.
Oh,
yes.
that's cool. That's a good effect. That's what we could hope for. Those are the things we could hope for. Now we're getting close to the end, so I want to leave it that you leave us each with, when we meet you 5 years from now, what impact will you have had either through your work, on your life? What's going to be your greatest pride?
The legacy of stories I've created over the last 5 years.
Okay.
So I'm going to take tremendous pleasure in looking at it, but if those stories helped impact at least one person for any specific reason why I did that specific video, then that's what makes me feel
Perfect.
accomplished.
So the impact of on others,
Correct.
your work having an impact on others.
Yeah, positive effect. I like making people happy.
Yes,
ultimately.
yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that's it.
I actually just had this conversation yesterday with my boyfriend. We were talking about our 50th wedding anniversary. Our grandkids will be there, and what we want them to say about us. And he is very big in charity. He actually teaches some theology over in the Honors College at UNLV. But for me, my biggest issue is accessibility. And we've had a lot of conversation this afternoon about the 21st century and having a computer in your pocket. But I encourage anyone in Las Vegas to, I don't know the exact street, map Channel 3 and go down to Four Master Lane, Four Master and Main, that area, and you will see hundreds of people on the street. I did it 3 days ago, actually.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding.
Yeah, and it's just, my heart's racing thinking about it. It's such a crazy experience to see the extreme amount of homeless people that we've just bussed over there, and how little accessibility they have to anything, to government programs, much less a computer in their pocket.
Right.
And so my goal is to make sure that the benefits of the internet are being trickled down to the people who need them all over the world.
Okay, and so in the absence of Trey Huntley, who is generally a part of these conversations, at our gathering last Thursday, Trey put out, and I know that he then put it out on social media, and I've been a little busy and hadn't gotten to respond. He set a personal goal that in the next 12 months, he will personally have 12 people off the street in housing and in some level of employment transition. So that speaks to the same type of thing. Again, caring about other people.
I think I would agree with being socially minded for being able to contribute my endeavors now into being able to help society down the road. And a lot of it within 5 years, I want to say and look back that I made a positive impact into the educational realm, not just in Las Vegas, but also in the community in the United States, from even a mental health perspective, to be able to get more people to be comfortable themselves and living a better life. And I think that there's different programs and initiatives that I align myself, and also consciously think about how I can make myself financially independent in order to create better opportunities for the future.
Perfect. Thank you. Bryan.
I'm sorry, repeat that question.
Yeah. So in 5 years from now, when we gather again, what is it that you'll be the most proud of, that, what you've created economically through your spiritual way of being? When you're looking out, what do you see for yourself?
Well, I definitely see myself helping others as well with just my skill, being able to maybe do media coverages, about things that's going on in our community, and letting people be aware of it on social media.
Sure.
and just figuring out ways that we can provide technology, like she was saying. Maybe we can create apps that would allow us to mixture of donate and maybe go and do some type of community service. As far as that's pretty much the future to me.
And what I noticed in the conversation, it wasn't about staying in a job for 20 years and getting to retire. It wasn't about things that were more traditional when I grew up, a sense of stability. The real focus is making sure that what you're creating and what's inspiring you to create actually then has an impact on others. And that's part of how I'd like to close this, because the two important things that came out of this conversation for me is a very clear focus that happiness and well-being is what this generation is forcing us to pay attention no matter what your age. And they have learned far better than my generation did that people matter And when you do that and combine it with what you do for a living, it is the thing you will be the most proud of. So thank you for joining me. I hope to see you again on this channel, and I am sure we'll get together all again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.